Hi everyone, thank you for joining our webinar today. So this is our third webinar now in our Careers Week webinar series, which is how to network on LinkedIn for job search success. So I'm Dr. Poppy Nathan. I'm a scientific marketing specialist here at Protein Tech, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Dr. Elena Hoffer, who is the CEO and co-founder of Alma.me, who will be able to share all of her success stories that she's got from working with people on LinkedIn and from her own content that she's been posting. But I'll let Elena go into that in a bit more detail later. But first of all, I just wanted to introduce you to Protein Tech in case you haven't joined us for the previous webinars this week. So at Protein Tech, we are a leading life science reagent manufacturer, and our portfolio comprises of four core product lines. So Protein Tech is the original manufacturer of antibodies and immunoassays, and we have antibodies against over 14,000 human targets, with the goal to create an antibody against every protein in the human proteome. We also have our humankind range of cytokines and growth factors, and all of our recombinant proteins are expressed in human cells so that they have the native folding and post-translational modifications that you would expect to see in human proteins. And importantly, we can manufacture all of these at a GMP grade for use in cell and gene line therapies. We acquired Chromatec in 2020, so our portfolio now includes high-quality nanobody reagents. And nanobodies are about 10 times smaller than traditional antibodies and combine to their targets with extremely high affinity, making them ideal for things like immunoprecipitation, super resolution microscopy, and protein purification. And finally, our genomic subsidiary manufactures antibodies conjugated to oligonucleotides, allowing you to look at protein quantification alongside your RNA sequencing. So all of these product lines share Protein Tech's main values, which is that all of our products are manufactured in-house, so we can keep quality control really high along every step of the manufacturing process. And we also really understand the importance of validation. So we perform all of our validation using knockout and knockdown models wherever we can. All of our antibodies are available in 20 microliter trial sizes for convenience and testing, and we can offer next day delivery to many countries across the globe. I also just want to highlight that we've been awarded Scitab's Researcher's Choice Award for the second year in a row now. And this is really exciting as it's been voted for by our end users, by our customers, which highlights how Protein Tech is making a positive impact throughout the research community. So we have a couple new sort of data transparency initiatives here at Protein Tech. So we're actually experimentally mapping the binding regions of our antibodies. So over 3,700 targets have currently been epitope mapped experimentally. And then we are showing that to our customers on a 3D protein model, which we've created using computational and structural information. So if you go to our website, you can view your proteins in 3D and you can rotate and zoom and interact with that protein. And you can see the exact binding regions of all of our antibodies. And we also have an immunogen selection function. So let's say you're only interested in antibodies that bind to either the intracellular or extracellular domain, where you can highlight that amino acid sequence, and only the products that we have generated that match that exact sequence will be shown. So using this information then, we've also created a first-in-class AI-powered search function called Able. So Able allows you to directly chat and ask for product recommendations. You can also ask for help with experimental design and access relevant validation, citation, and resources. So for example, you could ask Able to help you design a flow cytometry experiment or to recommend products that we've got validated in certain animal types. And Able will be able to suggest all of the best products that we have for your experimental needs, which saves you guys with all your time searching for reagents. So as I mentioned, Able is the first of its kind of these tools, and it's been designed in-house by our scientists with the customers in mind. We are completely in control of all of the information that goes into Able, so you don't need to worry about any responses being polluted by misinformation on the internet. If you do get a moment, please do check out Able on our homepage. You can ask him a question, or you can, as I say, use him to plan any sort of experimental design. But with that, I just wanted to introduce our speaker for today. So Elena has completed her PhD in immunology at Karolinska University, which she successfully defended at the end of 2023. Immediately afterwards, she went on to found Alma Me, which is a company dedicated to supporting PhDs in their transition from academia to non-academic careers. With a big vision to provide tools and knowledge to PhD students, Elena collaborates with universities to address this by offering scalable career preparation solutions for their PhD programs. And in her day-to-day work, Elena empowers and inspires PhD students worldwide through talks such as this one and through her role as a LinkedIn content creator, where she shares daily insights and guidance on navigating career transitions. So we're really excited to be joined today by you, Elena. You're obviously a huge expert in this topic, and I'm sure everyone is really excited to hear your insights. So with that, I will just stop sharing my screen and hopefully I'll allow you to take over.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Poppy. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And I'm starting my presentation. So, first of all, I want to say hello, everyone, and hello, Poppy. And I'm really excited to be back. I was part of last year's Careers Week, organized by Protein Tech, and it's a really, really great collaboration. And yeah, this year I'm going to talk about one of the topics that I really enjoy most talking about, how you guys can use LinkedIn for, finding a job, networking, and how you can really make it work for you. I realize a lot of academics, they say, I'm on LinkedIn, I have no idea how to use it or how to leverage it. And so I really want to spend this hour to hopefully give you some things, some really practical tips on how you can get started if you're in that situation. A few words about myself. I did a PhD, as Poppy said, and I think like many of you who are probably doing a PhD right now or a postdoc, and I would be very happy if you guys want to share with me in the chat a little bit. If you're doing a PhD at the moment, if you're a postdoc, and maybe what's your subject, just to understand a little bit who's present today. And just like you, I did a PhD while I was still in academia. I thought of LinkedIn as a very businessy platform, to be honest. And I felt something I think a lot of PhDs feel, or a lot of academics actually feel, that it's self-promotion being on there, right? So promoting myself, and we're always taught to be humble. And yeah, but at the end of the day, I realized halfway through my PhD, I didn't want to stay in academia and I needed to build a network outside of academia. And through an entrepreneurship course that I took, I came in contact with another person who used LinkedIn and leveraged it in a really, really great way. And I got very, very much inspired. So I started during my PhD posting on LinkedIn, but I wasn't that brave from the beginning. So if you feel like, oh, I would love to, post on LinkedIn, I really started commenting for half a year. And then I kind of had the courage to write my first own post. And I will never forget the day when I actually wrote it. I sat in Denmark. I was working in Copenhagen at the time. And I sat on my couch and I listened to a podcast and I got so inspired. And I was like, that's the post that I'm going to write. And I did it. And ever since, I can tell you, if you manage to start, or if you have the intention to start, it gets easier. Yeah, and today, 3 years later, I started end of 2022. A little over 3 years later, I have 140,000 followers, mostly PhDs, postdocs, or faculty. From academia who are all interested in the topics that I'm talking about, which is really the transition from academia into industry. And I share daily insights. So it's all about, educating, making knowledge accessible that I have. So it's very little about self-promotion. And I want to talk about this also to hopefully help you to reframe a little bit how you can show up on LinkedIn. And maybe let go of that mindset that you're self-promoting versus you're educating someone and you're just the vehicle that adds the credibility on top. So, before we move into really that networking part and how you can how you can leverage LinkedIn for job search success, I first would like to ask you, what do you guys think? What are the percentage of jobs that are filled through networking? I kind of want to set the stage so you understand the real importance of what we're talking about today. What do you think is the percentage? You can write it in the chat. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Okay, wow. Okay. You're all really, really good because none of you says below 50. So It is indeed, and I guess the numbers really depending on, where you read, you will find different numbers, but it's estimated that around 80% of the jobs are really um, given out, or that people get them through networking, through people they know, jobs that sometimes never appear on the actual job market, that are never posted. And only 20% are estimated to be reached through cold application. So this really raises a very important question that I had too when I was still in academia. How on earth can I start building a network with people in industry when I'm still in academia? And of course, you can do it in person, but another tool, and yeah, this is really what I kind of want to help you today with. How can you leverage LinkedIn to build that network? Um, and before we move further, I just want to kind of also clarify what networking is and what it isn't, because it really will help you to navigate the platform better. Because I get a lot of PhDs, they come to me and say, I reach out to people, I never get a response. I ask them for referrals, I send them my CV. That's not what networking is, and it's not going to work. For most people, it's not going to work because this is not the definition of networking. So when someone asks you and tells you use LinkedIn for networking, this is not what we're talking about. Linked, in general, when we think about networking, networking is relationship building, and it's usually a two-way conversation where you can start building trust. And I always like to reframe it. It's literally just connecting with like-minded people who care about similar things. So when you think about my network, in my network, I have a lot of people who care about, the transition, or who have an interest also in the transition from PhD into industry, or other PhDs who talk in similar fields on LinkedIn. Those are the people that I naturally attract, and those are the people that are in my network, and we somehow have a common goal. So if you want to move into data science, this may be your crowd. So networking is also it is strategic in a way, right? Knowing where you want to go helps you to build a strategic network in a direction. Um, and you already do networking in academia. So it's not that you don't do it at all. I mean, you go to conferences, you have collaborators, you really do practice it. I think LinkedIn is just a new venue for you to do the exact same thing, and to, how should I say, to enhance that skill a little bit. But what it really isn't, and this is just something, please do not go on LinkedIn and ask any stranger for a job, or a transactional one-sided ask. It's rarely not going to work. And it's not going to work because think about yourself. If someone reaches out to you and asks you something without showing any interest in you, or just kind of like gives you the feeling this is a very transactional ask, there is a high chance you're never going to respond. So I will show you how you can do it differently and make actually LinkedIn work for you. And I want to start because the foundation of making LinkedIn work for you is definitely your LinkedIn profile. And I think there are a few elements that I want to talk about today, that I think are really important, especially when it comes to first impressions. So you definitely want to have a profile picture. I see more and more people have a profile picture these days, and you want to focus on a headshot. So I wouldn't put anything in that is, like half body or whatever. I would really frame your face, and I really like when people smile. I think it really makes you can tell a lot from a photo actually about a person. And you just want to have like you want it to look professional. So sometimes PhDs ask me, does it need to be a photo taken by a professional? It absolutely doesn't have to be. I mean, iPhones or your phones have really, really good cameras. Just try to take a nice headshot and find a friend maybe who can help you with this. And then, I mean, you're good to go. Um, when you think beyond the photo, one thing that I really want to mention, both for networking, but also when you think about recruiters being able to find you and creating visibility towards recruiters, is really the headline. And the headline is really important because, first of all, when people land on your profile, they can immediately see what you stand for. So for me, it's very easy. I say I help PhDs land jobs in industry. Very simple, very clear. So you go on my profile, you go like, okay, cool, I'm interested, and you follow me, right? So you wanna have something simple on what you do, maybe the domain, and you can go beyond what do you enable people to do, as an example. This can be one way. I would actually go beyond just that one sentence, and I would actually add, especially when you're on the job search, think about the roles that you want to move in. Let's say you want to be a data scientist, right? Put in specific skills in your headline, for example, R or Python or SQL, because when recruiters use Recruiter Lit, I think it's called, this is the recruiter software. What they do, of course, they do keyword matching, right? They look for people who look for a job. And one of the places where the algorithm actually picks up keywords is the headline. So you definitely want to feed in specific skills. And this also, of course, requires, if you're on the job hunt, that you know in which direction you want to move. A PhD can open so many different doors, and I could probably just talk on this for a whole hour, but think about where you want to go and really let your profile speak and tell one story. If you, I want to say, if you look for everything, you look for nothing, because no one will actually recognize what you're looking for. So if a recruiter lands on your profile and they can't tell that you're a data scientist, they likely are not going to reach out to you for a data science role, right? You'd really want to convey that message. Beyond that, when you think about the networking aspect, the headline shows up in every comment you leave. So as you start networking and as you maybe start commenting on people's posts, which I really hope you will do after this session today, you will always see the first, I'm not sure, it's like the first five, words of the headline. So for example, when I leave a comment, what people see is I help PhD students land whatever, whatever. So if you as a PhD read that comment, you will immediately say, okay, or it creates some sort of curiosity because you can see what I'm doing and you may end up on my profile. And this is how people can identify that there is someone who, is interested in a similar thing. So keep that in mind. As a third thing, I would definitely encourage you to fill in the about section. And you don't want to necessarily write what you do, but you want to think of, where do you want to go in the future? I think that's really important. So think about it, right? You want to be a data scientist, frame yourself as a data scientist. I personally, and I guess that's absolutely a personal, whatever you prefer is a personal thing, but I do like to write in the first person. I see people writing in the third person about themselves. So it's a bit of what you prefer, but I just think it makes you more approachable. And just show a little bit of your personal side. One thing when you make the transition from academia into industry, people want to see who you are as a human being. So tell your story. And I know we always think, or well, at least I thought when I went on LinkedIn, I thought I have to be so extremely professional. It's a business platform. And yes, it is, but it's also important to show who you are as a human being. And this is something that actually makes you, right? And there is only one you. So, yeah. And then as a second thing, talk about, what you do and what you can help with. So, for example, when you think about my example, I help PhDs again in the transition from academia into industry. And what can I do and what do we offer? Here again, as I explained earlier, recruiters, they have a specific software to use, LinkedIn, for finding people. It's actually one of the biggest job boards recruiters use to find potential fits. So getting your LinkedIn profile fixed can really open up for visibility and opportunities. And bring in keywords in your about section, right? Talk about very specific things you did, bring in these very specific skills, the roles you're targeting. And again, it all goes back to having that understanding of where you want to go next, which I know is for a lot of PhDs already a big, big question mark, but it's really worth sitting down and thinking about it. And I also want to encourage you, as you leave the session today, don't aim for perfect. So whatever you hear today, just get started. Like, it's not about being perfect. You will see everything, it will evolve over time. So if you feel like, oh, I don't know where I want to go, it doesn't matter, just get started, but keep the process going of thinking where you want to go. You can update your profile anytime. And then I would also be, close if something what you're looking for or what you can do for people. So in this case, you're currently looking for opportunities in field XYZ. So if a recruiter lands on your LinkedIn page, they exactly know what you're open for. And be very specific. I think the more specific you can be with your profile, the better it will be. So now let's move over. Let's assume you have a really nicely fixed profile. And also, I didn't mention the banner at all, but the thing behind the profile picture, please do put a banner on too. I think it just looks so much more. When I see someone who doesn't have a banner, I immediately think I'm not always sure if this person is active or yeah. So I think it just looks so much more well taken care of. So when you have like a nicely set up profile, which I assume many of you likely already have, there are different ways of how you can build visibility on LinkedIn, right? And one of the ways really is through reacting to a post. And I think you all know that it's just like on Instagram too. You can give a thumbs up or no, actually, yeah, there is a thumbs up, yes. Or you can just leave a heart or whatever. And it really takes 2 minutes. It can get you on the radar of people if you keep engaging a lot, but I don't think it's the best way of actually building network. While you may get noticed by certain people, it doesn't give them a chance to get to know you, right? And when we think about back, what is networking? How do you build network? In fact, it's relationship building. So in order to build relationship, or I would say the basis of every relationship is trust. In order to build trust, you need some sort of engagement, right? And this engagement can only come through we have a conversation. This can be one-on-one, or this can also be in the comments. And I could tell you now so many stories of how I have built networks simply through commenting with people literally all around the world. I mean, as an example, there is an entrepreneur in Germany, and I have engaged with him. He also did a PhD. He started his own company, and I don't even know. I stumbled across his post at some point. I started engaging through comments with him, and we really just, there was such an alignment in what we want to bring into the world, and I think we realized that through the engagement in the comments. And then I traveled to Munich 2 weeks ago, and this is where he lives, and I said, you know what, Philip? Do you want to meet? I'm in Munich, so we met for a dinner and we spent 3 hours together. And this is just one story, but I can tell you so many other stories of people that I have met on this platform that I have built network with, that I'm now meeting in real life, and it's so exciting. So commenting is a really powerful way of building relationships literally with anyone. You may reach out to someone and send a message. They may not respond to the message, but they may respond to a comment. And I think the important thing is to make a comment count is don't just say great post, but really add some thought. And a lot of PhDs always ask me, but what am I supposed to say? And I think honestly, add some expertise. You guys have a lot of expertise in different fields. Add some perspective. It can be, in my perspective, you can ask a question. So there's so many different ways of engaging, but meaningful engagement. And I want to show you later, you will see a comment is basically like a mini post because your comment can actually reach a lot of people. And I brought you an example. And then last but not least, I think I don't want to say it's the best way, but it's definitely the fastest way of building network is if you start posting yourself. Because what that means, now you don't only, I mean, before you have to go out and you have to identify people and you start commenting, right? When you start posting, you draw a lot of visibility towards you. So people who, like what you do, they will see this in their feed. And as an example, I told Poppy the story earlier, so I can take this as an example. So the way I got in contact with Protein Tech was through LinkedIn because I posted on LinkedIn. I had a lot of visibility because I had the visibility. At some point, someone reached out to me, and yeah, since then we have a collaboration. So really being on LinkedIn has opened so many doors I didn't even know existed. So putting yourself out there, writing may feel very scary, but once you realize the upside of all of this, it actually it outweighs the feeling of maybe not wanting to do it. And I can tell you 3 years later, I don't feel anything anymore when I click on posts. So this you grow you grow as you go, really. And I think the important thing is also you don't have to go viral, but if you think about posting, just think about how can you add value for people, right? What I see a lot is when PhDs post, they post, oh, I published a paper, and then they celebrate. And that's really good. But it doesn't really add too much value, except for you're informing people right now that you published a paper. So think about how could you add value? How could you let people who are maybe non-scientists be part of what you did in your work? How about you write 3 sentences in a layman language of what you discovered? You know, that's when you start creating value for others, because I can tell you there are so many people out there who want to know about the latest discoveries in science. But really, honestly, not too many people make this knowledge accessible. We as scientists, we like to keep it to ourselves because we think it's self-promotion if we go out and talk about it. And I really hope that if I can leave you with one thing today, I really hope that I can leave you with this thought of going out and sharing. For example, I share a lot about the transition from academia into industry. I talk about how you can make a better CV. I talk about how you can leverage LinkedIn. I talk about interviews. I do here and then share a personal story, because that's what, at the end of the day, we're all human, and people like to connect with other human beings. They don't want to see this perfect polished profile. But what I want to say is, at the end of the day, it's not about self-promotion, going out and writing that content. And I'm sure a lot of people who are in this call right now, they have probably read many of my posts. They have maybe even benefited from it. And put yourself in the shoes of someone else who would read your post. You're educating them. You're giving them a chance to make something accessible that they couldn't access before. So think of yourself not as the person who self-promotes, but think of yourself as the vehicle who has the credibility to talk about these topics. So it's not about you, but why it's called a personal brand, or what you want to call it. It's really because at the end of the day, we're all unique. So every one of us will give their own unique flavor to whatever they talk about. So yeah, if you decide to post, it's not self-promotion. You're actually doing a favor to so many people who are so interested in knowing what you guys are doing. So, and here I actually do have some examples of what. So here, this is a recent post that I made. And actually one of my best post had 1.8 million impressions. This is, I didn't paste it in, but it's the pie chart that I usually do. And I just want to share that because you can reach so many people. This post I did like 2 weeks ago had like almost 200,000 impressions. One post, I can reach so many people. I can educate them. I can help them to understand their worth. This is so cool, honestly. And then I have this this beautiful post, and I just wanted to show that from Mame. I'm not sure. I may have mispronounced that now. I'm very sorry about that. But I saw it yesterday, and she was in the CV session, and she did this beautiful illustration or beautiful graphic on the session. But what I want to show you guys is I left a comment, and you see 668 impressions, so almost 1,000 impressions. 1,000 people have read my comment on that post. So there is a real opportunity for you. So if you don't want to do the posts, start engaging through comments. People read the comments, people engage with the comments. Think of it as a mini post, and it's a really easy way in. Good. So now let's say you are on LinkedIn and you want to connect with different people, right? I think this is one of the most common questions I get, but how can I actually connect with people on LinkedIn? Because a lot of people think it's awkward to reach out to someone they don't know. I completely hear where you come from, but I do it a lot and I do it all the time. And the more you do it, the less awkward it becomes, right? But I think it's a matter of how you reach out. It's always a matter of how you do things. But on the other hand, so first of all, who can you connect with on LinkedIn? Why is LinkedIn so cool as a tool? First of all, you can find alumni from your university, which is, you literally go into the search bar, you put your university in, you go to the alumni tab, you can even filter, you can put in, you can filter for titles, you can filter for different things and see, okay, where did these alumni go? Can I connect with someone? Can I learn from that person? So that's one thing. And why alumni works is because you already have a shared background. When you have a shared background, it's really easy to get someone to, oh, I remember that when I was still, a PhD student at Karolinska Institute. People want to help. And you will be so surprised. Like when we work with PhDs one-on-one, which we do a lot, it's sometimes uncomfortable when I tell them, please do informational interviews, reach out to alumni or reach out to people on LinkedIn. And it's insane to see once they do it, how much energy they get out of these calls. You are afraid in the beginning, reaching out to people, but once you realize how much you can learn, once you realize how willing people are to share knowledge with you, you will think completely different about reaching out to people that you have maybe never met in your life. Another thing is, imagine you can reach out. I mean, LinkedIn has 1 billion people. You can literally reach out to anyone who works in a role that you're interested in, right? You can, if you want to move into data science, you don't know what data science in industry looks like, find different people who are data scientists and reach out with a very nice message. And I have some examples of messages on the next slide. You can learn from these people. You can learn industry language. You can learn what it means to do that job in industry. What were their challenges when they made the transition? How can you overcome them? And then another thing is also find active voices in your target field. That is something I recommend a lot. So find people, for example, who talk about data science. When you can first of all learn from their posts if they talk about it, but you can also start engaging through the comments. And what is also really interesting, if you wonder how can I find more people who are actually in the data science space, who are maybe active or who do interesting stuff, find one person that talks in the data science space, go through the comments and see who comments on these posts. Is most of the time always the same people. If you go into my post, if you want to know more about which AI tools are out there, or how can I be a professor in academia, or anything related to PhD, you can go into my post and you can read through the people. They all are somehow related to PhD. So that's a really good way to find other people that may be of interest to you, that you can follow, that you can reach out. I would not recommend to start with recruiters. Recruiters get hundreds of messages every day. This is, they will likely never respond. So if you experience that, that's completely normal. Because imagine everyone is reaching out to them. What I suggest instead, start building relationships with people who work in professions or in careers where you want to go. And coming back to the networking element, because the thing is, I know a lot of PhDs, they go, oh, I'm done with my PhD. What am I going to do next? And the reality is, I know that this is a huge challenge, because when you realize at the end of your PhD and you think for the first time what you want to do next, you don't have a network. You don't have a network and you don't have time to build that network. Because the reality is, ideally, you start building your network way before you need it. Because the whole point, coming back, the network is not here to to help you with transactional ask. The network is here to build relationship where they one day go, hey Elena, I have a position open, I just thought about you. This is how it goes, because we have a relationship, because we like each other. So I'm not saying it doesn't work. I know from some people, they have done informational interviews and then they said, oh, by the way, we're just hiring someone for and they got a job out of it. It's not impossible, but it should not be the expectation. Yes, let me see here. So if you think about reaching out to other PhDs on the platform, there are different ways of really reaching out. I think a lot of PhDs, they don't get responses because they go in with a direct transactional ask. That often doesn't work. And I would also recommend, as you reach out, just try to do maybe a little bit of research on the person, and you can even sprinkle something into the message so they see that you have actually you're interested to talking to that specific person. I can tell you, most people love to talk about themselves. So if you go in with a very nice message and they feel seen, there is a high chance that they will respond. Another trick, before you reach out blindly to everyone, I would recommend you go on their profile and see what their activity is. While there are 1 billion people on LinkedIn, I would say very few use it actively. So if you want to increase your chances to actually get a response back to your request, check who is active. Have they left a comment? Because you can actually go on their profile and you can see posts, and then you can see next to it, you can see the comments. So you can see have they commented? Have they reposted? Do they show some sort of activity? If they haven't been active, you don't know. They may not respond because they actually don't see it because they never go on the platform. If you have someone who, wrote a post yesterday, you can be quite sure they're checking the platform regularly. And if you really want to talk to someone and you don't get to them through the DM, try the comment section. Really, that's works often much better. But so there are different ways of how you can reach out, and one is more of a cold connection, where you reach out to someone you have never talked about. And I always love to mention that I'm a PhD researcher, and I specifically at the time also targeted other people with a PhD, because what you do, you have this immediate connection of, oh, I remember when I was doing a PhD, because believe me, most of the PhDs know the pain of making the transition. A lot of them go through the same struggles. And then you can just say very nicely, I came across your profile and your work at whatever stood out. You can frame this as however you want, but you want to kind of like show a little bit, or you want to mention some specifics on the person so they understand, okay, you have done some research. It's not just some sort of generic outreach message. And then you can say, I would love to connect and follow your perspective. There is no ask in there yet. And then you can see maybe the person connects, and you can, again, at some point reach out, maybe ask for an informational interview. And I will talk about this later too, because it's my favorite tool that you can actually use to build network on LinkedIn very strategically. You may have an alumni connection, and that's actually, as I said earlier, is really warm. You can refer to the common connection, and then just say, I would love to connect with you. And then later you can always go in. Sometimes they respond. You can ask, would you be up for a 20 minutes chat? And I have all of you guys, I will give you access to our masterclass on networking for LinkedIn, and you have a lot of outreach templates in there too, so you don't need to memorize this or anything. And then what is really also a very good way of engaging is you read a post from them, you reach out after the post, you refer to the post because they feel seen, they feel like you don't just reach out because you couldn't find anyone else, but there's actually something that prompted you to reach out, and once that made you want to connect with them. But in general, keep it short and keep it specific. The good news is when you connect with people and you just ask a question, you only have 300 characters to use. So you have to keep it short in any case. But the important thing also to recognize is most people in business, I want to say, they're very, very busy. So be very specific in your the way you write, and keep it short, because no one has time to read. I sometimes get messages, guys, like pages of paragraphs. I can't read it because I simply don't have the time. So if you want to get the attention of a busy person, be short and concise. So, and now I want to introduce you to informational interviews. And I don't know, guys, I would be really interested, and you can write it in the chat. Have you heard about informational interviews? Some people call them coffee chats, some people call them informational interviews, but I would be really interested in knowing if this is like new to you or if you have heard about it. No, yes, no, yes, yes, and did also perfect. Yes, yes, yes. No, okay, it's quite mixed, but quite some. Yeah, no, no, no. Okay, cool. But definitely worth spending 2 minutes here because a lot of you haven't heard about it. And it's my favorite free tool that I really utilized a lot too during my own PhD to figure out where do I want to go next. Because when you realize your PhD can open so many different doors, I mean, just look at Poppy in marketing. Most of you probably don't even think that scientific marketing is a thing. They are not even aware that this even exists. So you really just want to go out and you want to look, what do other people with a PhD do? And you can start very broad. Start with your university, see where people went. And then you want to reach out, and LinkedIn is amazing here because you can identify alumni from your university. You can identify people who work in scientific marketing. You can all over the world, right? Some of you may do a postdoc in the US, but they think about moving back to, Germany, where they're originally from. This is like LinkedIn is your platform to connect with these people that are at home right now. And then basically reach out to these people and just ask them in a very nice way if they would be open to chat with you, because you want to learn more about their path. You want to learn more about their transition. You want to learn more about the role. And this is really, really Yeah, it's my favorite free tool because it really does two things, right? You start building network. You get someone on a call with you and you're just asking questions about them. And everyone loves to talk about themselves. And I can't say that often enough. It's really, really true. Um, don't ask, be very specific in your ask. Ask for 20 minutes, max half an hour, because people, they generally have little time. And, I really hate to say it, but as an academic, I see it now. It's such a different mindset in industry, guys. For me, when I was in academia, time had no value. This is unfortunately such, we have no concept of, that time has so much value. Once you're in industry, you kind of understand every hour is billable. It's really, you start changing your mindset about spending time with someone on something. So if someone gives you 20 to 30 minutes, just, be appreciative after it and maybe ask them even, do you know anyone else I can talk to after this, or keep them in the loop and say, hey, you know what? It was really nice. Thank you for connecting me with XYZ. Um, this is what I learned or whatever. So you can keep the networking going too. But what I want to say is whenever you reach out and you ask people for something, just approach it from a human perspective and really remember this half an hour. Yeah, they share it and they basically donate half an hour to you. And I think we often take it for granted in academia. I mean, we review for free, we do so many things for free. So yeah, that's really just one of the things that I want to say. And you can really through this network through these information interviews, you can expand your network, and at the same time you can really learn about the role, which is it's like two flies with one stroke, I think we say. I don't know if that's a thing actually in English, but this is what we say in German, and it's really it's so cool. I guess that's what I want to say. So, but I want to leave some time for questions. So I kind of want to come to the end. And I made a little bit of a LinkedIn to do for you for this week. And I hope some of you may start implementing it. And really, you see, I put the minutes on. It's really not that much work. Um, so if you're wondering, should I write my about section with AI? Because I guess this is a question, right? It's very tempting. Um, if you write the about section, I would definitely I use AI in my daily work. I use Claude. I can be very open with you guys. I use Claude for, correcting my grammar, helping me with flow, helping me with structure. These are all normal things. And my mentor once said, work smarter, not harder. So AI can really support you. But I think this is the important thing. It supports you. It doesn't do the work for you. So write your about section. It doesn't have to be perfect, and use AI to smoothen it out or to correct for grammar. I'm not a native speaker in English, so I think, if I have someone who can actually give me feedback, why wouldn't I take it? But don't let AI write everything for you. Make it personal. You want to bring in your own tone of voice. And I can tell you when you use AI, for example, in your application, and Angela talked about this yesterday, if you attended by any chance, but it's really everything sounds at some point the same, because it becomes, at the end of the day, what AI does, it makes the average out of everything, right? And a lot of uniqueness and personality gets lost. So you want to keep this in there. So if you use AI, please ask AI to use to keep your tone of voice and not change it around so it sounds, like a completely different person at the end. So work on your headline is a very easy fix, takes 10 minutes. Update your about section. Put a photo on if if you don't have one yet. And then I kind of want to give you a little challenge. Find 3 people to connect with and start with alumni. And you don't actually even have to, how should I say, you don't necessarily need to reach out to them, all of them, but just connect with them in a sense of follow them or connect with them. Should I include a personal note or not? I get that question a lot. I personally like it when people include a personal note, so I understand why you want to connect with me. It's just helpful, but I get a ton of connection requests without anything. I still do accept them, by the way, but the way I, for example, and this may be interesting for you, the way I select is based on relevance. Do I have a feeling that this person is relevant to me? So if I see something, that they're doing a PhD or a postdoc, if I can recognize anything in their headline that is somehow relevant to me, I accept it. Sometimes I have people, for example, they do ghostwriting. It has zero relevance to the work I do, so then I don't accept it. So the headline really can be very, very important in building that network. Send one personalized connection request to someone you want to, connect with. Choose again an alumni or choose someone else. And yeah, if you're up for it, I would also challenge you to leave a thoughtful comment on a post in at a person's post in your target field, ideally. And if you don't know how to find people in your target field, just it requires a little bit of research. And if you guys are good at something, it's research. Start researching, put in data scientist, and just look who creates content in that space. Go through the comments, as I explained earlier, and start building that network, adding people in that network. And then identify one person to do an informational interview with and just implement what you learned. And really, it doesn't matter if you're at the beginning of your PhD, in the middle of your PhD, or the end of your PhD. The earlier you start building this network, the earlier you start learning what's out there for you after your PhD, the more successful you will be in the transition. What really gets in the way of a lot of PhDs, in the transition of a lot of PhDs, is that I'm like in the transition. I'm thinking, what am I saying? But is that they often they don't prepare properly, right? So they come to the end of their PhD and they go like, what can I do next? And then of course you're under a lot of pressure, you feel overwhelmed. But if you take the time to prepare for this transition very carefully, you will actually you will have no problems, I think. Yeah, and with this, guys, we wanna support you further. So this was really a very broad overview of how you can get started, what are important elements when you set up your profile, and what are some ways of how you can actually start networking with other people. I have actually built a whole LinkedIn networking course on that, which specifically goes into how you can leverage it for networking, how you can find people, like basically everything we talked about, but in more depth. And also you have all sorts of outreach templates and yeah, things that can be useful to you. And because we talk about LinkedIn today, I also want to give you a little challenge. And if you feel up for it, is a very easy way for all of you guys to write a post. I invite you to write one post about this session today, something you have learned, something that stood out, one action that you will actually take, or something that surprised you the most. It doesn't really matter. Put some sort of angle on that session of today and enter a raffle so you can win 12 months access to our Almami platform, where we have like courses on all sorts of things that you need for the transition from CV writing to interview prep to how can you even think about your next step? What are your skills? How do they align with different positions? How do you read a job ad and so on? So everything you need. For me to evaluate, please do tag me, Elena Hofer, PhD, and I also have in the next slide a QR code so you can connect with me or follow me or whatever. And then you can tag me. Do tag Almami and Protein Tech. And yeah, so it's a small challenge, but I really hope that some of you take it on and maybe it's exactly what you needed to write your first post. I told you when I wrote my first post, I listened to this podcast, I got so inspired and was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And the most important thing is, and I kind of want to share that with you too, and then I come to an end, is when we go out and we post, we think, I think we take ourselves a little bit as too important because we feel like everyone is reading what we're doing and everyone is judging us. But at the end of the day, people most of the time they just scroll and they really don't think that much. So yeah, I hope to read, or I'm looking forward to read a lot of posts about the session later on. And with this, I just want to say, if we haven't connected, I would love to connect with you all. I do write on LinkedIn almost daily on all sorts of, things related to transition out of academia. And yeah, I would just love to connect with you. And with this, I wanna move over or give the microphone back to Poppy, and then we will take some questions later.
Thank you so much, Elena. Another super useful webinar, lots of questions, lots of engagement. And thank you to everybody as well for, answering Elena's questions there and getting involved in the chat. It's great to have such an interactive session. So I've just got a couple of closing slides to share with you all. So you should be able to see my career resources there on the screen. So at Protein Tech, we really value putting time and effort into developing scientists to be the best version of themselves, whether that's in academia or out of it. And that's why we put on these sessions. So as well as that, we have lots of other career resources on our website. These include things like blogs, other videos, interviews with experts, and you can find all of them completely for free on our website just by scanning that QR code. As mentioned, this is just one webinar of a whole Careers Week webinar series. To everybody asking, yes, we will circulate out the recordings for these, so you should have them all in your inbox next week. And everybody who has entered, including all of you guys, will be automatically entered into a raffle to win 1 year worth of full access to Alma Me's job search e-learning platform. So you'll be able to get all of this and more available from Elena. We also have lots of other resources available to help develop you guys both in science and out of it. So we have a free online learning portal where we have lots of online training courses in things like R coding, Python coding, image analysis, statistics, and there's lots more coming out. So please do check that out at learn.ptglab.com if you want access to any of those. And finally, please do stay in touch with us. So you can follow us on all of our social medias down there. We're just at Protein Tech. Or keep an eye out on your inbox and you'll be able to find any other events we're doing like this. If you've got any specific questions, you can get in contact with Protein Tech directly at events@ptglab.com. But with that, I'll just stop sharing my screen and I will get up this chat box and the Q&A. I've been writing some questions down as we go along, but please, everyone, do keep popping those in the Q&A box. So, Elena, we've had lots and lots of questions, which is great, but I thought we could just start with a couple more on the logistics of LinkedIn and how to use it. So, a lot of people have asked really, how can you reach more people through posts? Should you be including graphics, hashtag links? How many times should you be posting? How do you think of content to post? All of this, lots of people have had questions about.
Okay, I will try to be concise and a bit structured in my answer. So first of all, think about the topic that you want to talk about. I think it's important when you're at the stage that you are just starting. It doesn't have to be perfect. I would recommend just get started on posting. You don't have to post every day. I post every day, but for me, this is also business in a way. So this is my job. I'm doing marketing too. I know academics, they post 1 to 3 times a week. I think especially if you want to start small, because I see a lot of people, they start and then they have these huge goals, what they want to achieve. Start small so you can actually be consistent. Consistency beats anything. So just show up weekly. Start with one post. Ideally, if you could post every day, of course, do it. But I think you should be realistic in what you can do. In terms of format, I have to be quite honest. A lot of people, they will tell you this format is better. People will tell you, for example, the carousels do better. They don't work for me so well. For me, often personal posts work better. There is a lot more engagement. Educational posts work really, really well. So for example, the salary post, you saw 200K impressions. Everything that is educational works well for me with a graphic. So what works well for me may not work well for you. So I would invite you, look at it through a lens of a researcher and just do your own experiments. I think the very important thing is, do not compare yourself with someone who has a lot of followers, because obviously they have a lot more reach from the beginning. So start and don't compare yourself with the big people, but get out and start to create value. I think this is the single most important thing. If you create value, you will see success coming automatically.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think you're completely right. Particularly, I think for people who are maybe watching this who currently aren't posting at all on LinkedIn, anything's better than nothing. And then from there, you'll figure out what works for you and the kind of posts that your network engages with. So coming on then, a few people have asked about what your thoughts are on an open to work banner.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I know some people will tell you I wouldn't do it because it looks desperate. If you have heard that too, then I would say, do I want to work for someone who thinks it's desperate to need a job? I mean, in the current time, guys, so many people are looking for a job. It's completely normal to need a job. I think it's not desperate. I would encourage you put the open to work banner on visible, like in a visible way, because you can have the invisible one, but then only recruiters who have the very expensive Recruiter Lit software can see it. But there are tons of recruiters that source that may not have the software. It's really expensive, and they can actually identify that you're looking for a job by the green banner. And I have actually heard, I had a chat with a hiring manager from Novartis in Austria when I was there, and he said, hiring is really expensive. So sometimes we just go online and we look who's out there, in the field, and they look for people who would potentially fit, the requirements. So the open to work banner can be really, really useful. So I would definitely put it on.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing your opinion on that one. Similar question. Some people are asking on whether or not you need LinkedIn Premium, or if you've noticed that that really helps with job searching.
I mean, honestly, I don't have data on this, so I will just share with you, but maybe just talk to some people who maybe actually use it. I have LinkedIn Business, so I can't tell, but I also don't use it for job searching, right? So, but what I did hear is that some people apparently get reached out more from recruiters if they have LinkedIn Premium. So that could be, but I don't know. Otherwise, it doesn't really, like, if you think about it, I think you get a couple of more outreach messages, but it doesn't really make such a big difference. So when you talk to some people who have used LinkedIn Premium, they say you don't get so much more value out of it. But then again, I don't know, if you got more outreach from recruiters, it may actually be worth it, but I don't have any data to support this.
Okay, thank you. So a few questions now on sort of everything you were talking about in terms of building that relationship on LinkedIn. So people are asking how you maintain a relationship. So obviously you mentioned about, how you can reach out to have send a message with a connection, and somebody else said how you can send a request for an informal interview. But after those initial interactions, how do you then maintain a healthy relationship?
So I think that's a really good question, and I actually get it a lot. And I think it's, if you think about more quality than quantity, I think one of the things can be, for example, you may stumble across an article and you may think, oh, you think about this person and you reach out and you say, hey, I just saw this. So you try to maintain the relationship in a more natural way, and it's really about, you can reach out. When you think about them, honestly, sometimes I read an article on LinkedIn and I reach out and say, I just thought about you. So it doesn't have to be this very big thing. But for example, if that person would post, showing up in the comments consistently is the best way, because they may talk about something they care about. You come in, you give your perspective, you build that relationship. So for most of the people that I really have that, and that's why sometimes I think it can be really useful to find some people that are also active on LinkedIn who create some sort of content, because maintaining the relationship will become so much easier.
Okay, thank you. A few questions on changing career directions. So whether that's, you've got a PhD that's very specific and then you're moving on to something else, what kind of advice can you give about what to put in your headline?
Think about where you want to move. You need to be very clear, because I need to land on your profile and I need to see, okay, this person is a not wants to be a data scientist, is a data scientist, right? So talk in, the direction that you're taking. So I wouldn't say PhD student, I would say in my headline probably scientist. So also transform it and be clear what you're looking for. Are you looking for a data scientist position? So I think it's be specific on the skills that are relevant to the role that you want to move in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And just a very good question about someone is seen, or for an example, if you see a position that is advertised on LinkedIn, maybe it's shared in a post. Are you best off trying to reach out to that person who's posted it first, or do you think it's better just to apply for the job?
I think you can definitely try to reach out to the person that posted it first, but I think if it's a recruiter, I wouldn't even try, to be honest, because they get 100 outreach messages. If you reach out, I would think, okay, how can I reach out to be a bit different and add value, not just say I'm interested in a job? Think about why you're a good fit and kind of have a short pitch. And I don't know if they will respond or not, but I think that's your best way. But it can't hurt to reach out, because you're not going to lose anything. You can still apply for the job, right?
Great. Thank you so much. We've got time for maybe just a couple more questions. Um, so let me grab the chat box up again. Somebody has asked whether or not you've got experience in what the kind of entry-level jobs and salary expectations are like, both in academia and leaving academia.
Well, I mean, it really depends so much on location, guys. If you're in the US, you will probably make double, so it's not really gonna be so. So my best tip for you would be check out Glassdoor or Salary.com. These are self-reported data, but they can give you an insight on what you can expect. I mean, in the UK, you can probably expect half of what you can expect in the US. It's just because also there are different systems, right? Social systems, so it's also difficult to compare. But what I can tell you, when you move out of academia, you will likely make much more. That's the thing that I can tell you. In most jobs, you will make much more than you did before. I could, yeah.
No, great. Thank you for your honesty with that question as well. So maybe just one final question. We've had a few people asking about basically, I think there's a little bit of worry here that some people are maybe too late to start this. You know, people are coming to the end of a postdoc, or someone said that they've taken some time off for maternity and they've not done any networking, and they think, oh no, is this too late? What advice would you give to them?
No, today is the day. Start today, write a post, enter the raffle. The thing is the following, it's never too late to start, but if you're in the middle of your PhD, just take it as a sign to start today and build that network. But what I want to say, you don't just build this network, remember, to get that job right now. You build this network because this is the single most thing that will accelerate your career in a way that you will maybe look back in 10 years' time and say, oh yeah, I remember that talk by Elena. She was right. Network, some people say your network is your net worth. So wherever you are in your journey, it's never too late to build a network because you're not just building it for for the single instance of getting a job. You're building it because think about career progression, think about changing jobs into a different company. This is going to be probably the most single thing that is, yeah, uh, start. It doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's never too late to start, right? But you just need to make that first move. So good luck to everybody with all of your networking. Wish you the best of success. Thank you so much again, Eleanor. It's been so great to have you here. Please do everyone post, on LinkedIn your key takeaways if you do want to enter that raffle with Eleanor, and make sure that you log on again tomorrow. I think we're doing tips and tricks for a job interview again with Eleanor's colleague, Angela, who was here yesterday. And with that, I will just bring the webinar to an end. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. And thanks again to you, Eleanor.
Thank you.